maybe my morning routine, right? I'm getting ready in the morning, I've just come out of the shower. There's a number of questions that I have to go to different places right now to answer, right? I need to look at the weather forecast, I need to figure out what my day is like. Do I have to leave early because there's traffic? So we actually made a system that knows that you're in this mode, right? It knows you're in the restroom, you're getting ready for stuff, you don't want a mouse, you don't want a keyboard. So we gave it gesture recognition, we gave it image recognition, so it can figure out who I am. So it can do, it's a pretty private interface. So knowing that it's just me in front of the computer gives it an opportunity to show some really interesting stuff. Mirror. Mirror. Show news. So obviously when I'm getting ready for work, I might want to see the news. I may not want to read an entire news article here. So this lets me just cache it to my phone. Mirror. Mirror. Show calendar. So here you can see my calendar. We can see if I have any staff meetings coming up. We can see there you're there on the tour. Mirror. Show health. So this is actually, I think, what the most useful screen is, and this is the most appropriate screen. This is, I'm getting ready, I'm doing my grooming. This is where I want to see all of my health data. So this is a summary. This is a 5-week average of my Fitbit data. And this is the right place for me to be on that type of data. And this is also, in fact, the right place maybe even to see an article that lets me know that I need to be less sedentary. I can also activate with some gestures my sleep history. I wear this when I sleep, and it knows how well I'm sleeping based on how restless I am. So really, having the right attitude, having the right posture towards this interaction is what makes all the difference, right? This is the right place in the bathroom while I'm getting ready to have this type of information shown to me. And this is where I can actually take action on it, right? I can resolve to get more, I can resolve to walk to work or do any number of things based on this data. And in the sort of vein of recycling data, of making sure we're using all the available data out there, this will read tags that are already in some objects. So a lot of pharmaceuticals, particularly in the United States, have RFID tags, wireless proximity tags, already embedded in them. And so it was a no-brainer to just figure out, oh, there's a tag in front of me, I should look that up and display, in bigger print what's there. To get the same information, you actually have to read like really tiny print on the back. You can also augment it with custom stuff. So this is a prescription bottle that we augmented with the same type of tagging technology. And you can imagine, I know my grandmother needs to take quite a regimen of pills, and compliance is actually kind of a big deal. If I can get maybe a notification when a loved one has missed a medication or when they're nearing a refill date, that type of service is such an easy and elegant interaction just to add in. If we're making an enchanted object that's supposed to sort of be the nexus of my questions for this part of the day, it makes sense to be able to recycle these tags, to figure out from the world around you what might be the most smart thing to put in front of you.
But what's that link between what it knows and what you're telling it? Are you putting this inside?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've moved the what we tell it
Right.
to a system that's trying to learn, rather than a system
Right.
that's explicitly
Right.
saying, what do I do with this pill bottle?
Yes, yeah.
I would have to type in, oh, this is pill bottle 349. You need to, having that system figure out instead.
But that would mean, for example, that the pharmacy would have to customize tags for each of their customers so that it knew exactly how many you should be taking, right?
Yeah, so there are a couple businesses that are doing this. So Target now
wow.
actually does this.
Okay.
Target has pill bottles that you can get that insurance generally pays for that will do this very function. They know when the bottle has been opened, and in fact they'll play Marco Polo?
Yeah, sure.
The bottle itself will play Marco Polo with you when it's time for you to take it. So it'll just chime you a little bit, and then as it gets more urgent, it'll chime you more frequently.
Okay.
Those types of interactions, that's as easy as checkout, right?
Wow.
At checkout, we already know who I am because I'm getting the right prescription.
Sure.
Embedding that into the object is the next step. The object itself can contain all of this other data about itself. And we're really interested in, we call this the object API, the idea that data resides in an object even if it's not physically represented there. So this is a really diffuse experience, right? This answers a bunch of different questions about one time of day. We made a much more focused experience here. And we wanted to think about what types of information people get from our brand that really lasts and that currently are computationally difficult to access. And that is a fancy way of saying, when you're in the kitchen, you don't want to use the keyboard because you have chicken on your hands. So we wanted to make an interface that basically, it reads New York Times recipes. Julia, show latest recipes. you wouldn't mind standing a little bit back, there's a gesture sensor here so that you can swipe through. So here we've found the latest recipes, and on the screen we're showing the mise en place. We're showing all the ingredients we'll need to get together. So a machine is reading our recipes, which are already very well organized and very well tagged because we do that by hand. And then it's using that data to figure out what's going to be the most effort for me to cook this evening. So being able to browse by mise en place, by like how much work this seems to be, is a pretty useful shortcut. So I'm just going to pretend to make one of these. Julia, make this recipe. So obviously being able to speak to the machine is a lot better than trying to use a mouse or something. You can see on the interface we've highlighted the ingredients that you'll need to use for this particular step. And this is also a system that can listen back. And this is a really big value we hold quite dear. Not only are we putting information in front of our customers, we're listening back to how they're using it. So I could make a voice note at any moment and say, you know, I changed butter to margarine, or I'm using half as much flour this time. I could also ask the system to take a photo, and so that way the next time I make this recipe, I'll have a record of maybe exactly how I kneaded the dough or how I cut it up. So I'm just going to skip through and not pretend to make this recipe in front of you, but I'm going to get to, so again, listening back. Once I've made the recipe, it only makes sense to ask just a simple question. How was it? Was it any good? And this lets me build out a really quick taste graph. And it also lets me build out a graph of how all the customers are using this recipe. We can get a sense of the most popular changes to the recipe, or the craziest thing we've ever added to chocolate chip cookies. We call this idea of figuring out meaningful interactions that people can have with sets of ingredients. That's the brisket genome, right? We can figure out what the sort of core things to do to a set of food are. And you can imagine, you know, Mark Bittman maybe revising a recipe after 6 months to take into account how people are using that information. And so the last step with this, again, Fitbit and this idea, are you familiar with the quantified self? So the idea is that a lot of machines